welcome back to the podcast. Today, we have a special guest. Her name is Mai Hertao. She is my wife, and we're just doing this short podcast to kind of just give you a glimpse into our life, our marriage life. So I'm not one to brag, but I do think that me and Mai's marriage and our relationship is pretty good. But it wasn't easy, right? And it takes a lot of work. So we're just gonna jump right into it. We're just gonna talk about some relationship dynamics between married people, and our living situation, right? So, if you don't know, me and we live with my brother-in-law, which is Mai's brother-in-law, because he's married to my sister, right, Kasi, and we also live with their two beautiful kids, Abel and Abner, and like I just want to start dude, what is that dynamic weird for you, Mike? How has it been living with two other adults and two kids in the single house, while being married? Like, how has that been?
I don't think it's too weird. I mean, I think it would be weird if you didn't have a relationship with your sibling, and then you just got together, and then it's just weird, you know?
Yeah, because some relationships they don't, or some siblings they don't have a good relationship. Yeah, right.
But with me and my sister Kasi, we have a good relationship, and then I have a good relationship with my brother-in-law B as well.
Yeah,
and then I'm in love with both their kids, so to me it's not it's not too strange, or that dynamic doesn't bother me. I know we have our times where we need our own space, but I think it's great that they have their space on the top floor and we have our space on the bottom floor, so I think it works out. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Did we just jump right into it, or how did that even start?
I think we talked about it. I think when we were still living with your parents, I know that we didn't have any plans of moving out. We wanted to stay with them, but I think with Kasi and B, they've always been renting and things like that, and so I think the idea just kind of came up one day, hey, we should get a house, or we should rent together. And I think the idea just popped up, and then we talked about it, and then the more we talked about it, the more we just okay, maybe we should make it ideal, we should just go into it. And so we rented first, and then we lived together for a year. And then after that, the opportunity came for us to buy the house, and so we bought the house. And I think things are going well. I think we have personalities that we're mature enough to, if we have, if there's anything we need to talk about, there's issues that come up. I think we're mature enough, and our relationship is good enough that we can come to each other and talk about it if we need to. And we always have our conversations and things like that. So I think,
well, as far as we know, it's been good.
Yeah, right. Between you and me, it seems like, for you and me, it seems like it's good.
So if you're living with another couple, what happens when you and your wonderful husband get into a fight? What happens then? How do you deal with that? How do you hide it from them, or?
I think it's the relationship between you and your husband too. I mean, how do you guys usually?
Well, how have you done it?
Well, between you and I, we usually when we have issues, or rarely when we have fights, I think we're really good at talking about it in our own space. We're not the yelling and scratching and fighting type, or more like, okay, so what happened? You know, like, how is this happening? And, you know, what did I do and what did you do? And so we're really good at finding our own personal space to hash it out, whether it be in our room, downstairs, in the car, things like that. Yeah, I mean, and they're really good about it too. I mean, they have their own.
Like, we don't even know if they ever got into a fight. Right. Like, you can't tell.
Yeah, like, you can't tell.
And I don't think it's that they hide it. Yeah. It's just that they take care of it.
Yeah, so a different way.
It doesn't affect the whole house. Yeah. So would you say we're good at fighting? Like, and then what I mean is, I know people view fighting as a bad thing, right? But I think you have to be good at fighting, right? And what I mean by that is you have to understand like how to solve the issue, right? So do you think we're good at fighting?
I think you're good. Definitely you're I think we're good as a couple because I mean, like, you're really good at listening and you're really good at you know, trying to figure out things out and trying to, if
not, just punch you in the face, right?
mellow things. For me, I think I'm trying. I'm learning from you for sure. I think it's how the person is raised as well, growing up and the environment that they were raised in. Sometimes when you, like, for me, sometimes when we get into fighting situations, I'm more the shut down type. I don't like to talk about things. And
no,
it's really hard for me to, like, you know, like, go through the emotions, trying to talk about my emotions because, you know, like, being raised as the oldest and then in an environment where you're not supposed to talk at all, you just kind of shut down your voice. And so when I married you, you're more of the, okay, let's talk it out. Like, why are you feeling like this? Or like, how come this came up, you know? Yeah. It was hard for me to talk about my feelings. I'm just more like the shutdown. But, you know, like, I think in a relationship, somebody has to be the one to initiate it. And then the other person, and then, of course, you know, like, get your relationship or that fight to the point where you can actually, like, sit down, talk about it, and then try to figure things out. Because if you don't fight right, like how you say, then it's, you know, everyone's just the both of you are just gonna keep that stuff in until finally something blows up, and then that's usually like, you know, it causes other problems or issues in other ways.
Yeah, I think growing up in a healthy home helps, but I mean, our home wasn't that healthy either. I mean, my parents let us talk back to them to a certain point before they beat us up, right? So before, so before it got out of hand where we started swearing at them, they at least let us talk back to them. They never responded. Like, they never really, like, told us why we got hit, but whatever. But they at least let us talk, right? And I think I'm trying to, like, look at the healthy aspects of, like, my childhood, and I think that kind of helps. But I think for me, it comes from, like, I always want to solve puzzles, right? Or anything that is a puzzle to me, I always want to solve it. And so, like, if we get into argument, then it becomes an issue, or maybe sometimes a puzzle to me. And so I'm always trying to find out a way to fix it. And sometimes you don't respond to certain things. And, like, over the years, I've learned that certain things you don't respond to, right? And so when I'm being a jerk and I'm saying some probably unkind
really
things that doesn't work for sure.
Yeah.
And like, even like before, I would just, like, ask questions, and that didn't work either. But now it seems like you're starting to respond a little bit. So, but again, we don't fight that much. Like, it's like within the year, I think we can count the amount of times that we fought, you know. But I usually win. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think definitely, you know, there has to be somebody that initiates it, and then yeah. And then there's, you know, of course, the, you know, apologies, forgiveness, and then try to figure out how to go from there. You know, what can you do better next time? Or
Yeah.
I don't know, like you grow together, you know, and you should be able to grow together in fights or in your relationship, you know, things that you've been through.
So we're not the perfect couple.
No, we are not.
Right. So what's one of the things that you think we could work on, like, or maybe I could work on in our relationship?
I think what I can work on is probably trying
That's so you, dude.
I think what I can work on is probably I don't know, tend to more of your hobbies. I don't know, like I know. So between me and Apple,
so snowboarding.
No, between me and Apple, he's more the outgoing type, and I'm more. So he's more the extrovert, and I'm more the introvert. So it's really hard for me to like
do podcasts
or be like in the front of any situations. So like I don't know, like just going out, doing things, trying to make friends. Or
you've gotten really good at it though.
I've gotten better from where I used to be, but it's hard. And then Apple is more the like you know, I gotta be around people, I gotta do things, you know, I gotta be out. So between the two of us, you know, I think for me to do more things that you want to do, to kind of just broaden my creativeness, I guess you can put it that way, and to be more I don't know, like to get more experience in, you know, talking and having conversations, because that's what's really hard for me, to actually start a conversation and have it like just continue going. Because if I'm just the type where if you ask me a question about a particular thing, I'll just answer you with one or two answers, and then that's it. Like I'm not gonna like initiate it because I don't know how to do it, because it's very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
But with you can just continue, you know, going and listening and talking and doing other things. I'm perfectly fine staying home, and like I don't know, just reading or watching TV or K-pop or K-drama. But for you have to be outside, you know. And then definitely like this year has been very challenging, even for us introverts, because it's a little bit too much now, you know.
Do you think, like, for me, right, I know, like, speaking of COVID and quarantine, like, for me, when I'm starting to feel like antsy or like almost like a depression, right, I know exactly what it is. I know that I haven't been around people and I need to fill up that meter, right? So I know right away, because like we were talking about last week, where we went out on disc golf with some friends, and that filled me up right away. So I know right away. Do you get into like the point where maybe sometimes you're empty on like being around people, right? Like that social aspect, and you're kind of empty. Do you like know right away that, oh, it's because of that, or do you kind of like struggle with it, where I'm like, man, like I'm kind of depressed and I don't know why? Like, do you ever get into that situation?
Rarely, or maybe if I do, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to it. I know that like ever since, you know, like meeting you and being more outgoing, I've developed a personality that I like to be around people too. Just the people that I know that I'm comfortable with, just because I'm able to have conversations and be myself still. Yeah. So yes, I do miss like since COVID, I do miss like our friends. I do miss like laughing with your family, your side of the family, and I miss like my family. So like I do miss people, and I know that I need to, you know, like interact with like my nephews, my nieces, my siblings, your siblings, you know, our friends. Yeah. That I know that, but like sometimes I don't know, like you, like I don't have just a specific like, okay, I just gotta go outside and I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I think I have to like figure it out, or if it happens, then I'll know. Yeah. You know, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. So last question. So if there is one piece of advice you can tell our listeners out there about being married, right? And maybe being married to a Hmong man, just being married in general. Mm-hmm. What would that be? Because I think for me, it's you have to give your 100, right? Because I think a lot of people say, well, I give my 50 and you give your 50 and equals 100. But no, I think it's more than that. It's I go 100%. And then you go 100%. And then hopefully we can make it, right? And that's both of us going at 100% on our relationship. And so that means learning where to compromise and learning where to, I have to carry the load when you're down, or you have to carry the load when I'm down, right? So I guess my biggest advice would be like, you need to always go 100, right? And I think when people get into divorces or cheat or whatever, it's because they gave up, right? They stopped going 100 for the relationship. And I think that's my biggest piece of advice, is always go 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure what, but I agree with you with that. I know that definitely, like, before when we got together in our relationship, you always hear the things, things like that, like only go 50%, let the other person do 50. But
they have to do their share.
Yeah. But, I agree 100%. You got to go 100%. I mean, if you want the relationship to work, you got to go on 100%, whether that be, like arguments, decisions, the things that you do. You got to go 100% with it in order for it to work. Communication, everybody says communication, like things like that. Of course, you got to communicate in your relationship for it to work, but give everything you've got. And, then, like if it didn't work at the end, then you knew that you gave it everything you got. You didn't hold back. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well,
I agree.
Thanks for being willing to do this podcast. If I post it on YouTube, don't be mad.
Please help.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode of The Bamboo Ceiling, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on iTunes. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at #TheBambooCeiling. Until next time, use your voice.